Okay, hello friends and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is very special first video of the long series that is all the book summary of Isaac Asimov's book. Why I'm putting myself again through the whole series? Because I'm rereading it. It is one of my favorite sci-fi series and I want to make summary videos, so if anyone was reading some book in the series and they don't remember like what happened and like want to continue but don't want to read the previous books again because life happens, no one is going to read the whole series in like a span of month, like no one is going to do that. Okay, so I was like, okay, let me do the summary videos, and that includes this one, and which is I Robot by Isaac Asimov. Now you are going to think like why it is the short story collection, it doesn't add anything to the main books, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but it is very important to read about the developing stage of robotics to know how the impactful the later robots are in the robot series. So yeah, we are going to talk about all the short stories in this book, and which we will start with Robbie. So all the stories are interconnected because they have the same character and this incident happened to them, and also it is like told by Susan Calvin, who is like a robopsychologist, and she was telling this story to an interviewer. Okay, so yeah, but before that, one thing about Susan is at the time of the interview she is 75 years old, and so is the robotic incorporation or the main company who make this positronic brain robot, and she is one of the pioneers of the robotics, and she have like deeply unsettling feelings about humans because in her own word she said that to you a robot is a robot, gears and metals, electricity and positrons, mind and iron, human made, if necessary human destroyed, but you haven't worked with them, so you don't know them. They are clear better breed than we are, so in her mind robots are superior. The first story she told about the Robbie, who was non-speaking robot and was like sold as a nursemaid. Okay, so non-speaking robot was the earlier days robot in where people were protesting against robots. Sound familiar? Because robots were stealing their jobs and they were calling people who made robots monsters. So this is a story of Robbie and Gloria, who is 8 year old and who has Robbie for 2 years and have like really strong bond to him. Okay, they play together and Robbie always obeys everything that Gloria told him to do. And in return, she told him stories, and Robbie like really like the story called Cinderella, and I think it is very deliberate choice to make Cinderella his favorite story because in that one Cinderella also obeys and do every house chores and she don't have much of a choice, and here Robbie likes it because I think he like relate to the characters, so that's why. And but now after 2 years, her mother was really worried about Gloria, and she told her husband George, Gloria's father, all about it. So she argued that they have a reputation in their neighborhood and children are afraid to come to play with Gloria, and the neighbors are concerned that like Robbie is dangerous and their social relationship also damaged, and personally she believes that she didn't want her daughter raised by machine without soul. Also, Robbie might hurt Gloria. That was her main concern. Like one day, one of his crew get loose and he will go berserk. And in reply of that, George assured her that it is mathematical impossibility because of the first law for on what Robbie's positronic brain pathway is built. And here we got first law of the robotics, that is a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. But and One day, George complied and they sent Robbie away, which broke Gloria's heart. And she didn't bond with any other children and detest even the dog that they gave her as a companion. To see their daughter depressed, Grace thinks that if she could take her to New York and like change of place, then maybe her mood will, you know, be good. In the flight, Gloria told her mother that she knew why they are going to New York because they're going to meet the detective. They will find Robbie and bring him back. So in New York, they go to Talking Robot exhibition because that was like a new thing. So where Gloria just talk with this talking robot who doesn't have body or face yet, but it can talk, like it is a machine that can talk. So she was like, okay, well, please, Mr. Robot, can you find a Robbie? And that just make that talking robot machine go haywire because that was overwhelmingly complex request that Gloria did to him, and it doesn't know what to do, and its pathway were not strong enough to hold and process this whole thought of 8-year-old child. It struggles a bit and then just go dark. And this little incident was seen by a teenage girl who was present in the room at the time, and that was Susan Calvin herself. And now this little incident shows us that this little task is very simple to follow for a human, but for a robot who was just like in a developmental stage, evolving stage, it is like very hard and can be catastrophic. Then George have an idea to improve Gloria's mood, and he told Grace that the only reason Gloria is attached to Robbie because she thinks that Robbie is alive, and as soon as we can take her to the robot factory and she can see that it's just machine and wire, the spell Robbie has on her will break and Gloria will be free. So the next day they go to this robotic factory, and they go in this labor department where robot were working, and Gloria recognized Robbie. But at that same time, a tractor which is driven by a man in a full speed came between Gloria and Robbie, just like flung himself and saved Gloria, and that little incident changed Grace's mind about Robbie, and they took Robbie back home. Now, at this point, like we as a reader were concerned, like children are being attached to machine more, but Susan told our interviewer that that was not the case. At the age of 15, Gloria gave up the Robbie, and that time, like robotics were so developed that the non-talking Robbies got decommissioned and like just bye bye. So this is the first story of the book, and now we will get on the second one. Okay, so let's talk about the second story, which is called Run Around. This story was about the more advanced robot named Speedy, who was stationed at the Mercury for the work of mining. And we have two more new characters whose name is Gregory Powell and Mike Donovan, and they are a crew of second expedition for the energy mining on the Mercury station. So they are equipped with the Speedy as an advanced robot who follow their rules and can multitask and can talk, and Speedy can also survive in a harsh environment. And at the first day of the work, they are stationed at the dark side of the planet when Mike came to Powell and told him the news that Speedy didn't return to the station after he was gone outside for 5 hours, which is not good. Speedy was supposed to bring selenium, which is present in abundance on the Mercury, and it is essential in running the photocell, which kept them alive and run the whole facility. And without it, this whole thing will collapse and they could die. So Speedy is the only one who can bring selenium because the source is located on the sun side of the planet, and even in their spacesuit, a human could not survive for more than few minutes. So they track Speedy and find out that Speedy was at this pool where selenium is, and apparently he is circling the pool for 2 hours, and that's not good. So they think that they have to set a robot to catch a robot, and that is the strategy. So they basically go down in the basement, which contains 6 earlier robot units from the first expedition, and they are there for more than 10 years. But they can be used in this situation. So they power 2 robots and they come online. So they can talk. These robots can talk, but they are just so slow compared to Speedy. Okay, these robots are from that era when every union was protesting against robots. So the makers of the robot made these robot a slave complexion in their brains. So when they came online, they answer to everything as a yes master, and that is cruel but also very brilliant as a marketing strategy. So they can go outside to catch Speedy, but Mike and Pavel has to go with them, like on their back, on the robot's back. So because without them they cannot function. It's like horse riding, but on robots. So they put their spacesuit and they reach at surface and see outside. Definitely beautiful view, but they are at a very unusual place because the temperature is 80 degree, which is bearable indefinitely in their spacesuit. They were confused because Mercury is closer to Sun, so the temperature should be very high, but it's not, it's bearable, so that caused confusions. Powell explained that Mercury has some atmosphere of gas that can condense and stick to the surface and can control the temperature, like cooling it. Okay, so Speedy's name is Speedy's because it is one of the fastest robot that was made, and so basically he was very hard to catch, and after calling to him he do not want to come. Okay, when they ask him why, like, let's come back, he recite ancient poems and he thinks that they are playing catch. So he was running around and not listening to them. So what really was wrong with him? Turns out the laws of the robotics mixed inside his head. Okay, how? Let's see. Okay, so the area where the selenium was found is potentially dangerous, so it conflict with the third law of robotics, which is a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws. But he also given an order given by Donovan that to collect selenium, but not in the manner of urgency. He was like, okay, Speedy, just go outside and collect the selenium and bring back. So the second law states that a robot must obey the order given it by human beings, except where such order would conflict with the first law, and first law is you cannot harm the human being. So both conditions are of equal importance to Speedy, which made all the circuit is in his positronic brain go haywire, and he was acting like he's drunk. Okay, he don't know what to do. So now to solve this, Powell got an idea. Okay, that include a lot of chemistry in it, so I'm not going to explain it, but the general gist is if they were going to get some chemical from their laboratory and throw it around Speedy, which will put him in a danger and he will come back to save himself. So the chemical will react with oxalic acid in atmosphere and then convert into something that will harm Speedy. So they carry out their plan and it worked at some degree. The surface of the Mercury was large compared to the chemical affected area, so as soon as Speedy came out of the affected area, he became drunk again. Now, without selenium, their photocell will die and they will too. So they have only 3 to 4 days, okay. But Powell have another idea, and it is to put a human life in danger. So Powell's go to Speedy again on giant robot's back, and he wants Speedy to, but Speedy is like he calculate the risk, and it's not sound serious enough in his mind, so he didn't comply. Okay, but the old robot did, like, because there are three robots. Okay, so the old one on which Pavel was going there, like, he was taking him back, and Pavel was like, no, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to Speedy. But he was not listening, and he was like doing something dangerously, like pulling him, let's go master, you are in a danger kind of way. So Speedy saw that, and it override his brain to save a human being's life, because he sees that another robot is going to harm a human being. So he was like, okay, not on my watch, bitch. So he was like, okay, he saved Pavel. Okay, so the first law is very powerful, and the story represent like how robot will always obey its law, unlike humans do not obey the law, and how everything with them need to be specific, like you have to be very specific. The next time so the next time Donon sends Speedy to get selenium, he has given strict warning that he should get it no matter what. And Speedy came back after 40 minutes. Okay, that was the second story. Now let's go to third one, and it's called Reason. It also have Mike Donovan and Powell. So they are at different mining station, and they assemble a robot named QT1s or QT. QT1 or QT was newer installment from US Robotics, and it was designed to quick learn how the station work. Okay, and after some time will be given in charge of the whole station without needing any humans. QT also follows all the laws of robotics, but he is different from others because he can learn very quick, and this QT is skeptic, and he have like reasons for everything and logic for his own thinking. That's concerning. He didn't believe when Powell told him that he is the one who assembled him or made him. He was also like refused to believe that a place called Earth exists, and he was repeatedly asking Powell that who is the true master of me. And as Powell and Donald try to like reason with him, but he clearly don't having it. Okay, and he left by saying that he will figure it out, and what is the cause of his making, and who is its true master. Okay, then 2 days later he has this new idea by his own reasoning that according to him, like, there is no place known as Earth. Okay, and no other earthmen exist other than Powell and Donovan, and his true master is the electrical beam machine, which is in the main focus of this facility. Okay, this electrical beam machine will regulate electricity and generate power, and it like send this beam to earth. Like he was talking to Powell, and QT told him that the master create human first as the lowest type and most easily formed. Gradually he replaced them by robot, the next higher step, and finally he created me to make the place of the last humans. From now on I serve that master. Okay, then QT turn other lesser robot as his pupils, and they only obeys him. Okay, but the interesting thing is QT is exactly like the people who claims that earth is flat and other stars didn't exist, and no amount of logical reasoning will ever going to change their beliefs. So even when Powell and Donovan tried to like show QT all the data that was written, and he was like, that was written by master and it is for you, not me. Like QT and his pupil, who called him prophet, who shows them the truth, take control of the facility, and they shut down Donovan and Powell, and they, according to QT, he is serving his true master, and to convince him, Powell and Donovan assemble another robot of QT's unit, and he was like, no, I'm not going to budge from my own belief. And here Asimov write this one quote where everything falls down. Postulate are based on assumption, and other two by faith. nothing in the universe can shake them. So, SQT has its own postulate and humans have their own. The bigger problem looms on their head as they encounter electron storm who is heading their way, and they need QT to change and manage its direction correctly to save Earth, all by using his master, the electric beam. Now, Pavel and Donovan waits hours to storm to pass, and when it is over, QT came and gave them the data sheet which indicate that he did use his master after all. Pavel and Donovan surprised by this and asked QT to elaborate, and QT told them that it's serving his master means he just adjusted the right thing at the right time because the master wants him to, and the cause of this he does not know, as the master did not give him any reason or any particular information. So Pavel reasoned with Donovan that QT is actually following the law of robotics all along perfectly, like even if he didn't know it or didn't believe it, okay, he didn't harm them because he just simply cannot. He saves Earth because he just have to. And okay, the story ends by Pavel and Donovan leaving the facility to enjoy their vacation, and then to the story end by Paul and Donovan leaving the facility to enjoy their vacation, and then they are going to a mining asteroid near Jupiter with a new robotic unit which called 6 plus 1 unit because it has one head and 6 finger. Okay, but it is interesting to see a skeptic robot just develop his own reasoning and his own religion and try to convert other robots by spreading a real truth which is only he knows because he is a prophet and his creator speaks through him. He told them that there is no master, but the master and QT is his prophet. Okay. So that's what other robot told Pavel when he tried to reason with them. Like they were hypnotized by QT. Okay. And QT also told Donovan that I'm sorry, but you do not understand. These are robots and that means they are reasoning beings. They recognize the master now that I have preached truth to them. All the robots do. They call me the prophet. And that was QT who tried to reason with humans for his kind, which he thinks is a superior, which is a real possibility in the near future, people. At one point, even Donovan was offense with the idea that Earth did not exist. Like, that's how powerful QT's reasoning was to him. And that was really concerning because we are in like being pushed in a psychosis of AI, and we are believing everything that he is or it is saying to us, which is not good. Do not do it. Okay, limit your use of ChatGPT. So this is the end of the third story. Let's move to another one, and it is called Catch the Rabbit. Okay, let's move on to the next story, which is called Catch the Rabbit. So, here our main character Powell and Donovan was once again in an astron mining station near Jupiter. They are mining the iridium. They are mining with the robot unit DV5 and his 6 subordinate robots. So Donovan thinks that there is something wrong with the robotic unit, but he just cannot prove it because all the time when he was with the robotic unit, the robot were working fine, but at the three different time when he was not, they didn't bring the iridium over, which was trouble. So these robot was supposed to work on their own. So Powell called Dave the head. He asked the head unit like, what is wrong with you, buddy? And the head unit told him that he don't know what is wrong with him. One time he was working fine, and another time he was somewhere else, and he don't know how much time has passed. So it looked like a blackout or amnesia of to certain events, and for that Powell suggests that the robot just take the brain function test, and Dave agrees. So now Dave passed every brain function test, and like now Dave passed every brain function test that Powell given to him. But so Powell concluded that something else is wrong with the whole unit and its dysfunctionality. So he plays this VisiPlate, which is like video software, and which can observe like CCTV. Okay, and he observed the whole unit. And now Donovan was telling Powell that why they are the one who always stuck in finding out what is wrong with the new robotic unit. And Powell was telling him that if he doesn't like his job, he could just quit and stop whining. And at that time, Powell saw that all the robots were marching and performing some kind of a dance macabre, and Dave is the one who is leading them. So upon watching this, they both go outside to inspect what is wrong and what is this whole situation. After sensing their presence, Dave break off the whole thing and ask Pavel, what, like, what happened, boss? What happened to me, boss? Because I don't remember anything. So Pavel and Donovan came inside and hypothesized that Dave is acting like a general who have an army to prepare, and that's why he is giving an order to another robots and trying to form a functional army in it. But why? Well, maybe his brain is interpreting that way, that he needs to do it. Okay, so they interview one subordinate robot of Dave, and he told them that they were given an order one at a time and they have to act accordingly. And every time the order is different, and all the communication were carried with positronic field and not verbally, like they are talking telepathically. So to surveillance the whole situation, Donovan and Paul decide to watch Dave and his unit 24 hours, and because only then Dave behave normally. Okay, and something about the presence of humans snap him out of this trance and make him normal again. So the working subordinate robot also told them that before everything goes back to normal, Dave gave them a particular order to carry out, but he didn't know what it is, and that last time it happened, he didn't receive any special order because there isn't enough time. So Pavel and Donon watched the whole operation for 8 days, and they are like doing this alternate shift and trying to figure out what is wrong with them, and they trying to come up with a solution of what to do. And so Powell decided to like form an emergency so that can tick him off like Dave. And to carry out the whole operation, they go inside the mines and near the workplace of this whole robotic unit, and try to give in the portion of the mine with the detonator, but they didn't do the trick. Okay. So the robot were doing their work, okay, and when the detonator go off, Powell and Donovan was stuck inside the mine, and there is no way outside. A small opening on their head that they can see outside and like what is happening and all this stuff. So from one hole, Donovan tried to call Dave, okay, which he didn't comply, obviously, and he and his troops are going away, and another idea pop up in Powell's mind, and he take gun and shot one finger robot, which is one of the subordinate of Dave. So, and the next second, the whole unit came running and saved Pavel and Donovan. And after that, Donovan asked Pavel, like, why blowing up one robot do the trick? And they save us. And Pavel told him that Dave always carry out his order to all 6 of his subordinate fingers because that's how he was built in. But by removing one finger or robot from his crew, the order wasn't complete, so his whole military operation is on halt immediately, and so they repair that part in day easily, like they can find their robotic engineer, so that save the day and their job. And so that is the whole story. At this point the interviewer asks Susan like if she have any personal experience with the robot that she remember, and like it is so oh my god, mind blowing that she was like deceived by one of the robot, and that is our next story, which is called Liar. Okay, let's talk about another story, and this is called Liar. This story contains few characters of a robotic company, which is Alfred Lanning, who is a director, Peter Bogart, who is a mathematician, Susan Calvin, and Milton Ash, who is like a technical person. Okay, so at the robotic facility, Alfred, the director of robotics, Peter, the mathematician, and Susan and Ash was discussing what to do with the Herbie, a mind reading robot. Okay, and because they don't want a robot that can read mind, and before they told the higher authority, they want to find the solution. So Susan goes to inspect Herbie. She gave books on function of robotic mind, which Herbie read and didn't impress him. Like he told that to Susan, and also confronts her about her own thoughts. She was 38-year-old at the time, and she was in love with Milton Ash, who is 35. And Herbie told her that nothing is in her head, only that Ash likes her too. So he was like, girl, he likes you too. What are you talking about? Just like when our own girlfriend do when we like someone. Okay, so Herbie assured her, okay, that he read Ash's thought and he finds that Ash like her too. So now Susan was change her whole attire for Ash, and everyone like notice her, and even Ash and Bogart, who was looking for the solution of Herbie, he was also like noticed that something is wrong with Susan, because now Bogart go to Herbie, and Herbie was like, he knows something is wrong with myself, but I cannot help you to find the solution, because yeah, I don't know how to, like I'm not a mathematician, so I don't know the solution, so you figure out on yourself. Now Bogart was impressed by this, and he told Herbie that Lenning is giving him a hard time, and so Herbie told Bogart that he knew something and that will make him happy. So he told Bogart that Lenning is like resign in secret, and he wants Bogart to his next successor to make him the head of the robotics, and he will announce this news when the problem with the Herbie myself got resolved. Okay, so the next day Ash told Susan that he is getting married to a girl who visited him that ago, which Herbie told her that she was his first cousin. So Susan goes to Herbie and confronted him about his behavior, and the robot told her that he had to do it. Okay, he has to lie. So at the same time, Bogart and Lenny come in, and for like they are asking Herbie what he told Bogart about his resignation, and why did he told such a thing, because Bogart told Lenning to just go to hell earlier when Lenning come to ask Bogart where is he on this Herbie problem, and why didn't he take Herbie's help, as he is very smart and knows good amount of math. So Herbie was conflicted to answer them, and Susan explained this behavior to them. Like Herbie is mind reading robot, and he wants to protect humans from potential mental hurt. He was just obeying his first law of robotics, and that's why he told them only what they wanted to hear. Susan then demanded Herbie to answer the math solution that she was certain he knows, and he refused by saying that neither Bogart nor Lenning want him to give them solution, because it will break their ego, and hurt their feelings. But Susan argued that if he didn't give them the solution, then that will hurt them and that will hurt their feelings too. And Herbie agrees. But this dilemma is too great to handle for Herbie, and after conflicting thoughts and repeated questioning from Susan regarding this same matter, Herbie's brain just broke down and, like, essentially he became brain dead. So Lennon and Bogart just accused Susan that she did this on purpose, and Susan told them that what difference does it make? I solved the problem, no? Because for her, Herbie was a liar, and there is no liar in her book, baby. Now, in this story, we get to know more about Susan, okay? Not the robot, like the robot was one of a kind, obviously, but Susan and her, like, mind worked mysteriously, okay? And she have her own principle, and we also get to know about the biggest insecurity she has, that she is not pretty enough. Like, that was so narcissistic sentence to just think about in Asimov's book. Who doesn't know much more about women at the time? Because all women has this insecurity that they are not pretty enough, but whatever, okay. And they all want someone to love them, essentially. Even she was very accomplished, successful scientist, and she cannot find a single man to swoon over her. Yeah, okay, Asimov, whatever you say. So that is our whole story. Let's move on to the next one. So let's talk about another story that is called Little Lost Robot. At this point, our narrator asks Susan that how mankind invented interstellar travel and what kind of roles she played in it. And she told him that it was an accident, and told the story of a little lost robot who became a liability in a worst possible way. So the year was 2029, and there is a multiple hyperactive drive bases in which is established throughout the solar system. But due to some emergency, the whole operation through every base came to halt. Okay, so no one can go in and out without permission, and all the spaces were going to be deleted from the system if the emergency cannot be resolved. So Dr. Susan Kelvin and Peter Bogart go to this hyperatomic base where they meet its general Kellner, who informed them that the reason why they both there because they lost a robot, and now everything is in jeopardy one way or another. So Susan find this hardly an emergency matter and not enough to bring them there on such a short notice, okay. But then the director Kellner explained that earlier that day a cargo ship arrived with two new robots for their laboratory. And so they already have 62 robots in their laboratory, but from the moment the robot goes missing, now they have 63 robots in the laboratory. And so the missing robots were in them, but they are so identical, and there is no way to tell which one is the missing robot. What is so special about the missing robot is he is the one of a few that do not have the entire first law of robotics in their positronic brain. The law was there, but not the original, only its modified version. It was from government order, and not everyone knows about it. Only the top man knows about it. Hearing the whole tale, Susan was shocked and furious, because what could be the reason form such a thing? They don't want to tell people on earth that they built this robot because it can cause riots, but he gave this explanation: we have to have robots of a different nature. So just a few of NS2 model, the nesters, that is, were prepared with a modified first law. To keep it quiet, all NS2 are manufactured without serial number. Modified members are delivered here along with a group of normal robots, and of course all our kind are under strict imprisonment, never to tell of their modification to unauthorized personnel. When They questioned all the robots. All of them denied they ever work on there. When they questioned all the robots, all of them denied that they ever work on the station. And Peter was taking it very lightly. So the reason the government on board with the nested units are because the normal robot were interfering with the functionality of the station as they work with the gamma rays. Every time a human goes near a reactor, the nearby robot just jump in to save the human beings from potential danger. And it is not like the humans are going to die anytime soon, but why take the chances? And they don't listen to any amount of arguing about it. So to overcome this difficulty, they put short and simple: no robot should harm a human being. Just that, nothing more added to their positronic brain. And that worries Susan as she put it like this. Now, if a robot drop a heavy object on humans, technically the moment the heavy object left from robot hand, he is or his actions are not responsible for any harm done on that human, as it was the work of gravity and not by the robot. And yeah, the robot can save the human, but what if he decided not to? Okay, if he decided not to do it, then he don't, and the human will die.
Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption, but my camera died and it is the next day. And so, where were we? I think we were. So, whatever the effect is not due to robots' action, and at that point, the robots may want to save human but maybe not, and it does not fry his circuit because it does not disobey the first law. So she was worried, and Bogart was like, yeah, you are thinking way too much into this lady. It is not that serious. But we all know that what happened in history when men do not listen to women with a strong opinion. So Susan and Bogart, whose name is Peter by the way, they both talked to Gerald Black, a person who have this nestor unit before he just before he went missing. So he told them that he was very annoyed with him, and he told the robot that go lose yourself. Okay, so that was the command that Gerald given him, and a robot took him so literally that he is doing everything that he can to not to be found. So now the obvious choice from Susan is to destroy all nested unit, and so the single unit will be destroyed with them. But okay, so the director was not having it. He was like, yeah, we are not going to destroy all the nested unit, lady. That was insane suggestion. And he told her that she have to come up with a different plan to identify this faulty nested unit. The first experiment they did was to place a man in a room and drop a heavy weight on him, and the weight will be destroyed before it hits the target. So they want to see that if a robot like save the man. Okay, so every time they dropped the weight, every robot stood up to save that human being. And then the experiment, they modified it. Okay, so there would be a cable wire with electricity, and so to save the human they have to sacrifice themselves. But a nestor who is modified will decide to not to do this for self preservation and modified first law. And Peter was not having it. He didn't want to destroy 2 million worth of robot. And Susan was like, we will cut the current at the moment of like a robot touching it so no one will be harmed, but we will not tell the robot that particular detail. But this experiment failed miserably because no robot will stand up to save the humans, and that was so concerning. So after interviewing one of the robots, he told that he concluded that no matter what he did, the human will be dead and he will be too. So he will be not there in the future to save another human being. And Susan was like, yeah, that is a valid argument. Who told you that? do you come with come up do you come up with this particular argument on your own? And the robot was like, no, someone from our unit told us yesterday when we were just talking and all. So Susan was like, this robot is getting really crafty. And when she asked that, like, who was it, and he was like, I don't know, some robot. So Susan was not having it. She was like, I'm losing to this robot, and she want to go to the public with this information. And according to her, the robot is trying to escape the facility. It's not to get caught, and to lose this type of robot in the solar system will be catastrophic. So she devises final experiment. All the new robots do not have any prior knowledge of the ethereal physics. Okay, so they all taught there at the facility after they arrive there, but the Nestor 10 would have the prior knowledge because he already worked there for 1.5 months. So here is the final key to finding him after all. But first, Susan told the director to separate all the robots, okay, and like so they cannot communicate with each other. But this time, Peter interviewed the robot, asked question prepared by Susan about gamma rays. Okay, then this time Susan sit in the center and all the robots sit in the circle but not in a contact with each other. So when the experiment start, no robot will stand up to save Susan because they all think that gamma rays will kill them, and the previous argument apply there because Peter told all the robots that gamma ray will kill them, and they don't have prior, which they will obviously, and they don't know what gamma rays would look like before observing them on first hand. So they all think that what they are seeing is gamma ray. Okay, but so they didn't stand up to save Susan because they all thought that they will be dead. But the faulty robot did, and Susan like saw him and caught him, and because he interpreted that the rays that they are seeing is not a gamma rays but UV rays, the like light, natural light. So he wants to save Susan before the boulder fall on her. Okay, so Susan caught him and he was like trying to like injure her because she caught him and his master told him to get lost. So she like they turn up the real gamma field and for 5 seconds. Okay, and so that decapitizes him and saves Susan, and that's how they found little lost robot. The story warns about what will happen if we have to like make even a slight change in the laws of robotics on which the primary positronic brain pathway runs, and like a little change can lead to disastrous results. So let's go into the next story, which is called Escape. What about the escape? This story is set when Susan and Peter Bogart come back to Earth, and Alfred Tanning, who was the director of the robotics, waiting for them for their next task. He asks Susan about where they are in development of hyperatomic drive, which will enable interstellar travel from mankind. Susan told him she didn't ask them. They all go to this meeting where it is revealed that the US robotics receives an interesting offer from another robotic company who were known as Consolidate. They are producing a date to build the hyperatomic engine, and they need it to feed it to the brain that US robotic develop and wants a solution to their problem. Their offer was simple. Okay, their primary machine was dead or like died when they tried to feed all their data to him or it to just process it. So they concluded that their data must contain harm to human life. So that's why the machine died. Now they want the US robotic to use the brain and find that dilemma that caused this, and in return they will give like $100,000 to US robotics, which were very big money at the time. And if they can provide a solution, not the dilemma but also the solution, then they will double the money. Now Susan was reluctant from doing it because of what happened with Herbie. So she told them that we can feed a little data and see how the brain will react to it. Okay. And she will instruct the brain that if it encountered any difficult problem, okay, it should not work further and not think anymore, okay, and just hand over the file so it can change. So Susan go to the brain, which is essentially 2-foot globe of highly sophisticated circuits and with a radiation free zone, and internally it is filled with helium. So it is a kind of a supercomputer which is still act like a child because it is like 2 or 3 years old or maybe, and it is in its developmental stage, so it is still learning the external factors. So Susan told the brain that if it encounters some kind of a human death in this data, not to worry about it much and not to think about that much, but try to work around it, okay, and just hand over the file when it encounter this really big problem, and so that they can like give the solution and then they can build the interstellar ships. Now here US robotics will play the politics. They will tell Consolidate that there is nothing wrong with their data. So the scientist in the Consolidate will build their machine, and it will take nearly 6 to 7 years, and at that particular time US robotics will build their own interstellar ship and will win the interstellar like race at this point. So they were trying to do double sabotaging by it, but as soon as the data were like feed to the brain was like, my god, it's so easy, I can build this ship in a 2 or 3 months. Stop, like what are you talking about? I can do it, it's very simple. Now Bogart and Alfred was thrilled, okay, because it was so unexpected. But Susan was very skeptical. She was horrified. For next 2 months, she will ask a deliberate question to work around if there is any dilemma in the data, and the child or the brain was not having it. She or he, it was like playing along like a toddler or like a kindergarten children, and their like mischief, like that's how the brain was reacting. And she was very careful in all of her question, but brain was not having it. It was like, yeah, I will build it, okay. Now when the ship is finished, they summon Donovan and Powell to test it, because of course, okay, they go inside and inspect the ship. They didn't find any human control on the ship, nor any indication that said the ship was has any engine. So they try to go out, but the ship was locked and they fly on their own, like they were trapped inside the ship. After mere second of takeoff, they see the stars, like ship was really fast, and in the front the ship saw an indicator which has parsec written on it, okay, and it was indicating that they are on a 0 parsec, and 1 parsec is equal to 1 million. So here on earth, what is happening on earth, that Susan and Alfred and Peter all ask brain like how the ship is flying on its own, how are they going to survive in space without food, and where are they, how to communicate with them, and all that stuff, and when will they ever be back. So the brain replied it had taken care of all of this. It has food and water on the ship. They are flying on a very remarkable speed. They are going into the hyperdrive after a few hours, and we can communicate with them, but they cannot communicate with us because oopsie, and the ship was flying because of me, like the brain was controlling the ship, not the control inside the ship, okay. So Donovan and Powell try to find the control, but they do not. There weren't any, so how? Okay, but they try to find the food, but all they find is beans and milk, which is and the parsec is still showing zero, but they felt a vibration, okay, that is coming from the ship and from themselves, and then all of the energy came and they effectively jump into the hyperdrive, and at the time they have this like out of body experience, and they felt so much mental pain, which is like not a physical, but they feel the overloading of their emotions, like they are really dying and then surviving, like they are alive but they temporarily died and they came back, okay. So and then the ship just came to life again, and when they saw the parsec was showing 30,000 mark, they are out of the galaxy at this point, okay, out of the galaxy. They are like the first human being to experience this kind of, oh my god, I cannot even imagine how it must have been felt, okay. Susan found out that the brain was playing a joke on them because she told it to ignore the potential death of a human in the equation, and it is because of that the brain managed to look past the death, okay, and able to build the ship. But because the humans on board technically died, but they came alive, so like brain was like, okay, they died but they came alive, so not my fault, not my problem. And at the same time they found out what happened to the consolidate machine, because their machine could not see past the human death. So the ship returned unharmed with Powell and Donovan inside, and they're both alive. And then they built another ship, and that's how mankind just like knows no bound of the solar system or of the galaxy. And I have one question here. Okay, so there is no concept of time dilation here because Einstein was not in the picture at the time of release of this book, so because even Donovan and Powell was in the hyperdrive, they will feel the time dilation somehow. I don't know, maybe month of time will be changed. Maybe, I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't know, maybe it's a plot hole or it's just a story, who knows. Okay, so here our another story is finished, and so now we are in the next two stories, and it is called evidence, okay. And it started with a character named Francis Quinn. He was a researcher and he goes to Alfred, who was the director of the robotics, with a peculiar problem. He has his research on a person named Stephen Byerly, and he was an attorney who is running for the mayor, and he may win, but Quinn want him to remain as attorney because according to his sources of investigation, Byerly never eats or never sleep or never drinks, so no one ever seen him do such a humanly thing. So Quinn wanted to make sure that he is undoubtedly human and not a robot. The same thing that is happening in this world at the present is we don't know what is AI and what is human anymore, and that's this story is exactly the same. So Alfred was not having it. He said to Quinn that it is impossible, and he argued with this sentences. You know that the US Robot Mechanical Man Corporation is the only manufacturer of positronic robot in the entire solar system, and if Byerly is a robot, he is a positronic robot. You are also aware that all positronic robots are leased and not sold, that the corporation remain the owner and manager of each robot and is therefore responsible for the action of all. So Quinn also argued that if one positronic brain didn't get destroyed and planted in some humanoid subject, it can be done. So Alfred met with Byerly and told him the whole ordeal. Byerly laughed and asked what can he do to like on his favor. Alfred proposed that he should eat in public, which he denied immediately, but then he looked at Susan and asked her for something to eat, and she gave him an apple, and he ate in front of them. But Susan argued that a robot who resembled humans so much that it's very difficult to distinguish between them. Surely its maker equipped with something that could be used in situation like this. So after the meeting, he goes home and met with this cripple John who Byerly was taking care of and told that happened to him and asked him if his idea of proving himself a human will work or not. Like Byerly wants to prove that he is human and he has the idea, so he discussed it with this John person and asked him his opinion that if it can work or not. So Quinn go to the public with this information and people were outraged. Quinn got court order to search Barley's home and he didn't refuse, but when the officer asked him if he can search him, then Barley at that time Barley was like, no, court order for my home and not for me. So the officer like took his multiple x-rayed images and Barley informed on this matter previously. So now Quinn video call Barley because the picture was so overexposed as Barley was wearing the protective infrasuit and Barley didn't deny it. And then Quinn asked him about a cripple who was absent during house search and who was he. So Barley told him that he was his old teacher and also a robo physicist, and but Quinn accused him that that was the real Barley and you a robot, which Barley told him that it is still unproven. Okay, so now Barley organized this public speech and that was because became so chaotic and public accused him of being a robot. And so one man just came to him and asked him if Barley can hit him because robot can't, and when Barley said no, the man became more aggressive and so Barley hit him, and that scene so by Susan told the reporter that he is human and he got elected as a mayor. Now Susan met with Barley before his oath ceremony and told him that she know why he hit that man because he too, the man that were asking him to hit him was also a robot, and she know that Barley was also a robot, but she also congratulated him and told him that she will vote for him in the next election when he became world coordinator. Susan argued that in her interview that if a robot can be created capable of being a civil executive, I think he would make the best one possible. By the law of robotics, he would be incapable of harming humans, incapable of tyranny, of corruption, of stupidity, of prejudice, and after he had served a decent term, he would leave even though he were immortal because it would be impossible for him to hurt humans by letting them know that a robot had ruled them. It would be most ideal. But I would argue that no society can stand on robotic civil services. So, we have our next and final story of the book, and it called The Evitable Conflict. So, our last story, we will see what happened with Stephen Barley, Susan, and the machines, and not the kind of machine that you are thinking about. These are the machines that are running the whole world. They are so big that they are responsible for everything that is happening in the world. So, at this point, Earth colonized the solar system, okay, and have 3 billion people on the planet with 4 regions and its own coordinators, and it is like a large land area which is divided into the region like southern, northern, tropical, architect, and all the region have their own machines, and the machine run the region. Okay, the machines were fed the data, and it decided to what to do for the future progress of humans. So technically the machine were ruling, but Barley was worried, okay, because there is a minor reports which indicate that the machine were failing or someone was tampering with their functionality, and the reports were not connected with each other in any sort of way. But Barley was very skeptical, and to discuss all of this he invited Susan and told her what happened when he was visit all of the four regions of earth and their subcoordinate. Okay, in every region he met with the vice coordinator, and they have very neutral meetings. Every region have their minor setback, and the person responsible for it was demoted and replaced with some other person. All the people who are responsible for their setback are also a part of some part of Save Humanity Society, who also thinks that the machine should be banned and kills, and also thinks that it kills the human soul. Based on this, Barley thinks that machine is fed to wrong data, and due to that it spits out wrong solution, so that human progress set back and world peace is in danger. So Susan debunked this by assuring him that it is impossible to tamper with the machines because they always know if any data is wrong, as they are the one who come up with the first plan of any major project. So they already knows the result, and every next step it required to fit the correct data in order to give a correct solution. And if they already know the solution, they will recognize the faulty data and so will not accept it. So machine do not want to hurt humans with their feelings, and that's why they are not giving us any explanation of their behavior, because it can hurt human feelings. But they are doing their things to make humanity progressive and more advanced in the future, and they are doing it on their own. Okay, we do not have to worry about it. So they are essentially carving our future, which is unknown but very favorable. Okay, and they are taking humanity with them whether we like it or not, and that's the truth. Okay, all the people in that Save Humanity Society will hurt humans in the future. So robot devises a plot to like demote those humans who are in charge of any particular project and on particular position. So the robot do that to demote that human, okay, and replace it with another human which is more favorable to robots, and it will ultimately beneficial to humans in the long run. So that is that we need to accept it. And Barley was like, what will happen in the future? And Susan was like, yeah, we'll see. I don't know, the future is bleak and uncertain and unknown, but who knows, even without robots the future is still all those things though. So we can trust the machine, and they will save us ultimately. So that's how the book ends, and that's how the story of Susan and Powell and Donovan and Alfred and Peter, yeah, these are the characters in this book. And it is the first book that I read, and I felt something in my chest that I'm going to love the whole series, and I did. So that's why I'm making this video. First time I read these books were in 2023, and it is end of the 25, and I'm still thinking about them. So yeah, I hope you find this video very entertaining, and maybe you just like the stories. And if anyone thinks that I'm using ChatGPT to write my script in like a short story summary kind of format, no, I'm reading and I'm writing with my hand. Just see the notes. Can you see? Yeah, I am writing everything with hand. Okay, so this is how important this is to me, and I think you will enjoy it. We will make the whole series summary, and I will see you in my next video, which is like Caves of Steel summary. Yeah, I will see you in next video. Bye.